All right, I want to help you out with the Chapter 4 assignment question on compulsive gambling and classical conditioning. I know it's a difficult question, so I want to, well, in some extent, I'm going to actually answer the question. I'll talk you through it though. So you have to actually pay attention, and but you should be able to get it once I do this. So let me start off. There's four questions in this one. Let me start off with the second question, asking you to identify the US, UR, CS, and CR. So the first thing you have to do is identify what's the unlearned stimulus response pairing. And that's hard to do with gambling. There's so many different things um, that are conditioned stimuli. So the cards, the card table, the dealer, the casino environment, all of those are neutral stimuli. They don't necessarily lead you to have this, really intense experience. Um, but what does have an intense experience, and you don't have to really learn it, is putting your money on the line. So the US is the risking of money. If you say gambling, that's fine too. But it's this uh, position you're in where your money's on the line and it could go increased or it can be taken away from you. So that's the unconditioned stimulus. The unconditioned response is you um, feel excited, exhilarated, your heart's beating. It's just really an intense, mostly positive experience when you're risking the money. Okay, so that's the unlearned portion of it. The conditioned stimulus is, or stimuli, is everything around that risking of money. So it is the cards that you have, or the roulette wheel, or whatever it is, the slot machine. It's the casino environment. It's your payday, which often goes before the trip to the casino. It's the um, driving by the local casino because you're starting to anticipate, oh, I'm going to gamble when I drive by. So all of these things just become associated with gambling, risking money, and well, what do you do with that? What's your response? It's not exactly, you don't feel the same intense euphoric high that you do gambling. In fact, in some ways, it's a compensatory conditioned response. Um, in some ways, you feel the absence of gambling more acutely, and so it's a craving to gamble is the conditioned response. There, you're these are things that prepare you for that high, that intense, euphoric experience of your heart's racing and you're just super excited. The but when you're craving gambling, you're at the other end. You're like, oh, I'm so bored. I need something to really give me a jolt. And that experience comes about with any of these triggers, these conditioned stimuli that remind you of risking your money. Okay, so the US is the risking of money or gambling. The UR is the euphoria, exhilaration, excitement of that risking process. The CS is all the stimuli around gambling, everything around it that is part of the process. And the conditioned response is a craving to gamble. Okay, so let me go back to question one. How might this intervention affect his craving to gamble? Well, so what is the intervention? It's you ask him to go to the local casino, play a single game of blackjack, spend 15 minutes walking around, and then leave. Okay, so most of this you might say, okay, well that sounds like exposure, right? You're ringing the bell but not bringing the food. So you're going to the casino, walking around, and leaving, and you're all with a friend who's going to keep you from actually risking your money. Okay, so that sounds like exposure. You might be wondering about this one point. He plays a single game of blackjack. All right, why would we ask him to do that? Well, a single game of blackjack, and I should have clarified that it's low stakes blackjack. So let's say he goes to the $5 table plays one game. Well, he's not going to get that buzz, that excitement with the single game of blackjack. And yet it's still important for him to handle the cards, to be at that table, to see that person in front of him. Um, uh, all of those things are really closely connected to the gambling experience, and it's closely connected to the unconditioned response of feeling exhilaration. So playing a single game won't give him that experience because it's low stakes, and he's not going to lose a lot of money, but it exposes him to those stimuli in a very close manner, so that, again, like ringing the bell without bringing the food, he's going to crave the gambling. He's going to feel the absence of gambling, and yet he's not going to have the other experience of risking a lot of money. So the yeah, so that is the how might it affect his craving to gamble? Exposure means it's extinction, and so 1 and 3 kind of go together. The extinction process is he's being exposed to the CSs, and he's not gambling. He's not being exposed to the US, the intense, risky behavior of high stakes gambling. Okay, so the extinction process is basically, yeah, straightforward. He's going through the extinction process. Now, question number 4: how do you address what are the complications that can happen with this intervention? Well, first off, if he doesn't actually play a single game of blackjack, or if he goes to the high stakes table and plays one game of, $10,000 hand of blackjack, that's going to it's going to backfire. It's going to continue the association between the conditioned stimuli and the unconditioned stimuli. So he's going to continue to crave gambling. Okay, so that's the first thing. If he doesn't follow the intervention, that's one complication. But the one I want you to really look at is the spontaneous recovery. So spontaneous recovery is where, if the extinction process goes, the bell gets rung, that dog stops salivating. Well, what happens a week later? You ring that bell, that dog will probably salivate again. Not as intensely as before extinction, but the salivation will come back, and it'll recover. It'll be present again. And that process seems to just happen because time has passed since the extinction occurred, or because of stress, or because of a number of other factors. So the reason why they say once an addict, always an addict, is because the conditioned response, the craving to gamble, never goes away completely. It seems to be inhibited, and in most circumstances will be less than it used to be, but it doesn't actually get erased. The memory is still in that person's head, and in certain circumstances can come out, maybe not as strong, but it can come out. And so that's the difficulty about the recovery process, is this person will perhaps always have some reaction to the gambling stimuli, just because they've they have that history of compulsive gambling. All right, hopefully that helps you. I know that's a lot to take in, but yeah, hopefully you can answer all the questions now. So good luck.